Hey there, comic book friends. I'm Travis, and it's Talking Comics. We're going to talk some comics. These are comics from the week of September 18th, 2024. In no particular order, just my thoughts on where I'm at right now with the book. First up is Power Fantasy. This is issue number 2. Really get into the meat of the book with this issue. And I think with this issue, really kind of set the tone of potentially what the book is about. Power balance, right? You can go back to the Cold War between the United States and the West and the Soviet Union, everybody with their nuclear armaments, the understanding of mutual annihilation. It's kind of where we're at with this, but with people with superpowers, that level of superpowers. Seems to be like 6 or so of them with this level of power. And over time, they've struck a balance. And there is a question on whether or not that balance is shifting. And if it shifts, what's going to happen? What plan do they need to put in place for that shift, if that shift were to happen, and whatnot. And super interesting because that whole balance looks to be going on amongst this group of people who potentially at one point in time were all close friends, and now they're friends with quotations around them in a maybe not so much so anymore kind of thing. That a lot of it's potentially reliant on old interactions. I'm really interested to see where the book goes. And I will say this is very much a Kieran Gillian written book. And I love that. When he is on. And he's really on in this. I think the idea of it, I hope that he's got the ability to take it for as long as he wants to. Casper Wingard, I'm guessing is how you say his name. I love his colors. I love his work. I love his characters. They emote everything you need them to emote. And just lays down a really good comic. So excited for this to be, that 25, 35, 50, potentially page book, issue book. I don't know how deep of an idea that they've got here. We'll see. I'm hoping it's selling really well. I mean, I understand this is like the first 2 issues. The initial printing has sold out. I don't know if that means it's selling really well or if it's at least outselling their expectations, which is great. It's great that it's outselling its expectations. And people sometimes get really excited about the fact, oh, look, we're on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th printing of something, which is good in one way. But in my mind, it's also not because they didn't have good projections on what they thought they were going to sell, which is one of the reasons for the pre-order thing, not to sell the system, but that gives them a better idea what to print when you're waiting that first printing and whatnot. But like I said, really great book. Interesting backup essay in here. Karen writes some good essays. Then there's as with the last issue, I don't know if people take the time to read the fine print on the back. Of course, some of it is in other languages, so I guess if you're adept in those other languages, you can read it more than once. But it's got some fun silliness in there that with my old man eyes, I almost need a magnifying glass to read. But amusing on the sense, but really just a excellent book. Get lots to think about when I'm checking this, when I'm reading this book. I definitely think about it for a while. Man, talk about art and art done well. So check out these pages. We've got 2 people in 2 different places. And the tone on these pages, well, even over here, is just the coloring and whatnot. It's just excellent as the situation between these these two characters and a character that was in the darker stuff, walking. His entire thing is in that darker stuff. Just smart on all kinds of levels of a comic book making. And like I said, excited to see where it goes on the long run with power fantasy. If you're into superheroes, I think you'd enjoy the book if you're willing to look at something besides the superhero trope of, people punching people in the face. If you're into Karen Gillian's books, otherwise you'll dig this. If you're interested in, I think that power struggle thing, definitely a book for you. Next up we have Ultramega issue 5, and it is square bound because it is super thick. Hey, you book smart people out there, I'm going to continue to grumble about square bound comics because I think that they are not good. By and large, this could have been given to me in a big old thick triple stapled book, and I could have completely opened it up without breaking the book. And I'm not so concerned about breaking the book other than then it falls apart, and I don't want a book that falls apart. Why do they do that? Because this is, look, the binding. This isn't like something, I get the idea of square bound. If you think it's going to be something you're going to put on your shelf or whatever, that makes perfect sense to have it square bound. Otherwise it doesn't make sense to me. And I know it's got this little fold along here. You can fold it out, but then it's going to do this the entire time. It's never going to lay flat again. Is it just me being particularly stupid? Probably, but I really wish they wouldn't do it. I wish they would just give us a big old thick book with giant staples in it versus this, because then I could lay it open and actually see the kick-ass art that this book is. So, James Herron, amazing artist, colored by Dave Stewart. It's all about the art. It's all about the visuals. It's about the visceralness of it. His art is so his and nobody else's. You open it up, you instantly know that it is James. And I absolutely love it. Pretty much love just about anything the guy does. It does. I was thinking today as I was reading this, because this is a pretty hefty book. I don't know. It's probably 2, maybe 3 comics worth of comics here. And it does have kind of a James Corbin-esque feel to it, in the sense that you pick up Corbin's work, right? And you instantaneously know it is. And it's kind of offbeat. It's jazz, not a standard. And that's awesome about it. So this story, I have to admit, it's been long enough since I read Ultramega. I was kind of like lost through some of it, in that I'm like, okay, this is all going to come together in some sense. Because the very beginning of it, there is a little splurb that says, what happened last time. It's 3 lines long, and it's not necessarily enough. And the comic starts out in a completely different place. It starts out in a different world, which ends up, it's great. A lot of this comic is kind of, this issue is lots of background story to get us back to the worlds that we're going to be dealing with the Ultramega. Basically fighting kaiju. It's our superhero guy here fighting kaiju, and it's cool, and James does it in such an awesome way. But there's just all this weird little stuff along the way. I totally dig it. It's, like I said, it's super exciting stuff. I look forward to getting back into the into the thick of it with the next issues. I think there's I want to say there's 1 or 2 more, and then if it it does well, he may do more, kind of thing. It ultimately is like most of this kind of stuff. It's all dictated on sales, and if it sells, they can keep making it, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. Really, really enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm looking forward to the next issues, because we get back into the meat of our main characters that we were seeing in the prior stuff, and there's just some really kind of crazy stuff. I think James is a great writer, for this kind of stuff, for what he's doing here. This is all it's just kind of completely ape sort of stuff and just bonkers, and I really dig it. So next up we have Body Trade, issue 1 from Mad Cave. I've been trying more of Mad Cave stuff because I've been enjoying quite a bit of it. What do I want to say about this? So written by Zach Thompson, art by Joke, J-O-K. It's a different Jock. It's not Jock that those of us who read lots of comics are aware of. So let's start with story. As you can tell, I'm apprehensive about talking about this. There were aspects of it I liked, but as a whole, it was like, okay. Some of it feels very typical. And I guess stereotypes are there for a reason. And then there's this. So this man, his child has died. We get the impression that potentially there was some sort of a traffic accident that he is somewhat accountable for. Also, it's implied that he is either an ex-drug user or a current drug user, meth head or something like that. He is showing up at his son's funeral. He is not welcome there. He's been kind of a freeloader. He hasn't paid the bill. I guess his kid was in a coma for quite a long time. And then obviously he passed. And so he's at this funeral. Finds out at the funeral that his son has been donated to science. And the funeral, and his mother was given this urn, which will grow a tree. And you see all that tree back there in the background with all of the body tags on it. And that's a cool image. And knowing that makes this cover really cool. The body tags on the bodies down here, and then they're hanging in the tree, and then this whole thing. Well, this dad wants the body. Like, where's the body? And he loses his mind over the body. And I'm just not 100% sure why you'd want the body that much, unless there's something I do not know that they have not told us. And it almost feels like there must be, because of how wacko he is about wanting this body. I mean, like, he goes to the hospital, he's a biggish guy, and he finds the corporate people who are basically paid for all of the kids' stuff so they could donate the kid's body to science. You find out there's this truck, and it's stacked to the top with bodies and stuff. I don't know. Art-wise, there's some great art in it, and there's some art that kind of collapses on itself, I feel like. As a whole, I like the style and the look of it. I'm hanging around for a while because I get 3 issues before I can drop it the way I pre-order. So I'm kind of waiting for issue 2 will cement whether I'm interested or I'm going to walk away from it depending on how many issues the book is. Another number 1, The Moon Is Following Me from Image Comics, written by Daniel Warren Johnson. Riley Rez does some amazing art in there, and I believe Mike Spencer is the letterer on the book. So it starts right out. It's wonderful. It's Riley Rosmo being Riley Rosmo. Art-wise, just amazing stuff. We're in some sort of wild fantasy realm, and we're also kind of have magic wands that are blasters, and we get some wild technology that creates a Huey helicopter from the Vietnam era. They fly around a little bit and whatnot. There's currently there's a struggle between this husband and wife. The wife is all in to save Penny, which we find out is their daughter. The husband says he's all in, but actions don't always meet that. She's willing to kill, maim, murder. He is apprehensive to be doing that. They're helped by some people. There's some wizards and some dwarvish type people in here, and the bad guys that they're fight for this. And the only reason they are fighting people is to get to this Pigface is what his name is. He's an arms dealer, and to get this weapon, and then they're running from that, and they get injured, and we have this brief moment where Penny, and we see Penny is like on a walking bridge, and it's at nighttime, and she's pointing up at the moon and going, "Look, the moon is following us." I think it's funny. My um, youngest kid was like, "Well, of course the moon is following us because it goes around the Earth." Anyway, um, but so we find out towards the end of it the kind of the premise of this. They're in like a dream realm. They're in Penny's dreams. She's laying in her bed. She's got a device over her head. They put devices on to get to her. We don't know why she's stuck dreaming or whatever. None of that's told to us, obviously, in the first issue. But um, but yeah, it's these great characters. Some Riley Rosmos. I'm thinking about it. I don't remember there being any crazy panels, and lots of times he will do at least one page that's got some really wild. This one doesn't have it. More conventional, but still really great. There's Pigface. There's the arms dealer. He is freaking awesome. All the weapons hanging from inside his thing, and he will sell them this special weapon, but it's going to cost them something. It looks like it costs like pieces of their soul or something like that. Yeah, there's the picture of Penny down there, saying the moon is following them. Anyway, so excited to see what it is. I have to admit, I have not read a lot of Daniel Warren Johnson. Normally, he is the artist along with the writer. I should pick up more of his work. Like he's got a Wonder Woman book. I think I should pick up. I was kind of sold on him when I read Do the Powerbomb, the wrestling comic, which I'm not necessarily into wrestling, but dug that comic a ton. So it makes me kind of on board. But I like Riley Osmos also. But I think that Daniel can write. He's telling a good story. Mind you, he's part of the story. Riley's the other part of it, and visually a great book also. So very much looking forward to however much that ends up being. But it's been really enjoyable so far. Next up, we have issue number 9 of John Constantine, Hellblazer, Dead in America. This is going to 11, I believe. This issue continues to be written by Simon Spurrier. Aaron Campbell is back on art. Charlie Barrett doing the colors on it. We get John having come back from hell, and stuff has happened. It looks like potentially either all of his comrades, all of his traveling buddies have been taken over by the Hollywood dream, making a movie and all of that, or they're playing their own game now. Not exactly sure. They don't really want anything to do with John, and so John has to go about manipulating the end game because he thinks he sees the end game now. That he needs to manipulate that, but he's having to do that through some other people. In basically perfect Constantine fashion to try and move the needle to where he wants to. Still just a really excellent book. Nothing in this issue in particular grabbed me, but I definitely very much enjoyed it. I think the next issues are going to be really really interesting, really wild going into this final. As like I said, if he thinks he sees the end game, how he's going to make that start to happen. Very much looking forward to checking that out. But as always, super solid book. Next up, we have issue number 4 of Lawful. Really, really enjoying this book. In this issue, our main character is him embracing his monsterness. He's been moved to the outer circle, which is where the people who are getting close to being legit monsters are at before they're thrown over and out of the city. He's come to terms with a lot of stuff and sees the hypocrisy of the upper crust. And at the end of this is given the opportunity to go back and to help the upper people, the inner ring, and not be stuck where he's at. But now he's a teacher. He's teaching these small children who are monsterish, and he's happy with that. His mom has been thrown down with him. They all seem okay. This is their life. It is now. It's not what they expected to be or what they wanted to be, but it is what it is, and they're going to move forward. There seems to be some sinister stuff, of course. It happens toward the end of the issue. But I like this issue because it felt good, because it's like, okay, what we thought was going to be terrible really isn't that terrible. That's where we're at. And what we thought was going to be a great fall, it is what it is. And we're going to go on and live our happy lives. Of course, it looks like it's going to be disrupted. So we'll see. Issue 13 of Wonder Woman. This is another Absolute Power tie-in. I browsed the pictures, read a few words, and put it back in the bag. I just have zero interest in the Absolute Power stuff. Got nothing to do with what I want to read, so it makes little to no sense to me. The last issues of it, so I just basically I got to the back. I read the back thing. It was marginally cute. It feels like it was a retelling of this and the last issue through Damien's eyes, tainted completely because, of course, telling this stupid story about how Trinity came about. It doesn't really tell us how she came about. But I think this is the last of the Absolute Power tie-ins. I hope so, because I feel like I'm wasting my money buying the Wonder Woman books, written by Tom King or not. It's not the story that's supposed to be told, so hopefully we get back to the story that's supposed to be told with the Sovereign and dealing with that, dealing with America and the issues and stuff. So next up, we have Ice Cream Man. This is issue number 41. We get this great James Bond spoof cover there is with his ice cream. Ice Cream Man, I love this series. It's always interesting, thoughtful, lots of things along those lines. This issue is just okay. In the sense that it didn't grip me in any particular way. It's basically a James Bond kind of story, except our agent goes to some place and to get somebody and finds out that Holt Dairy might be evil, might be poisoning all of America, and tries to expose that and basically gets shut down. The one aspect of it that I think was really had me go, was I think Ice Cream Man is in this issue driving a taxi, and maybe that's not him. Kind of looks like him. Not 100% sure. And they're having this conversation. He's saying this weird stuff to our main character in this issue, and the main character in this issue goes, "Huh? Are you even Cuban? Because they're in Cuba. You don't seem." And the taxi driver interrupts him and says, "Technically speaking, I am a subliminal, fey, influenced demigod made of raw, negativistic thought. My friends call me Ricardo." So is that what Ice Cream Man is? Is that what our entity is? I don't know. That's the one thing that was like really went off in my brain when I'm reading the issue. Still really like this book. It's just we get so many issues that are like, super, super emotional or are super, what the F is going on. This one seemed pretty mundane and pretty straightforward. Telling us that Holt is this, this evil conglomerate potentially. Well, no kidding. We've known that for probably 30 issues or more. So enjoy the comic still. I'm curious, since we really laid down the Holt is bad, if we're going to get back into the whole Ice Cream Man and the guys that are potentially against him and that other story that's basically been lots of times has just been left, other than the Ice Cream Man himself seems to be this kind of in the background nasty character. Are we going to ever get back to that? Is there even really something else there? I'm sure there probably is. They just don't care as they continue to, write this book and write great stories. Clear up to issue 41, so kudos for them. Always interesting. Even a mundane version of Ice Cream Man is head and shoulders above a lot of other comics. So And finally, this week, the last issue I talk about is Jenny Sparks. This is issue number 2, the Black Label. Tom King, written, and Jeff Spokes drawn book. I really enjoyed this issue. I enjoyed this issue quite a bit. I was concerned because the solicitations with issue 2 had to do with the whole Twin Towers, potentially 9/11. 9/11's happening, and Jenny's asking for help. Well, that solicitation is crap. I mean, 9/11 does happen in this issue, and the reason I'm worried about that is because that's a real thing. It's just like having superheroes back in World War II time fighting the Nazis. It all works up to a degree, but if you have Superman around, how the hell did the Holocaust happen if you have Superman around, right? So when it talks about serious world events and superheroes, which are pure fantasy, it's I don't know how you work it. Anyway, it did happen in this, and they don't explain it, they don't justify it, other than Jenny herself was in the grave when it happened. So our last issue, she gets wiped out. She wakes up buried, and she's, in the cathedral, buried with the other saints in England, in London. She gets out. She's super annoyed because they put her in a cutesy little dress. She has a conversation with Superman, which is kind of an interesting conversation. She feels that that Superman continues to be the naive person that Superman is. She's smoking cigarettes. He blows his cigarettes out of her mouth, says it'll kill her. And she's like, no kidding. Why the hell do you think I smoke the damn things? But at any rate, so it gets back to our scene where Captain Atom is completely off the rails. He is in a bar. He's holding hostage in the bar. Superman has basically told Jenny, we're going to wait this out until all the Justice League is back on planet, because Hal is off doing something off planet, and then they're going to go in and hit him hard. And she's like, yeah, it's not going to work. You do that, it's just going to be, it's going to be a disaster. It's World War, it's nuclear bombs going off, basically. So after Superman leaves, she basically phone calls herself into the bar and has some conversations with Captain Atom. They go all kinds of things. Captain Atom maintains that his demand should be met, and the big one that should be met is that he should be recognized as God. And Jenny's like, that's not going to happen. He vaporizes people and resurrects people. It's going to be really, really interesting. And that whole thing is what I think is really cool about the comic. Just this kind of power struggle, and what do you do with this level of a hero that has gone off the rails, that doesn't have. I'm sure he has some sort of mission, but it's not like he's a supervillain to take over the world. He needs to figure out how to thwart the taking of the world, or blowing something up, or all of those things. This is different. So I'm in. I'm really enjoying it. So yeah. Looking forward to the next issue of that. And that's it for this week. Thanks for watching if you watched. And I will catch you next week when I'm going to have 16 books. That's going to be a lot. So buckle up. Bye, everybody.